Hello everyone, my name is Ahlström and today I'm going to be doing something which I haven't done for a very long time. Now today, because I was stuck for ideas on what guide to do, mainly because I've pretty much done everything I can, bar one or two things, but I'm going to go over my old Flask guide because that was pretty rushed and it's pretty awful to today's standards. And I have to apologise, they're actually called Vials and Emblems, but they used to be called Flasks and that's kind of just stuck with me since that's what I first started calling them. But anyway, I'll try my hardest to call them Emblems and Vials from now on. Now moving on with the actual guide, let's go over the basics first. Now the first thing I'm going to talk about are the vials. There are a lot of vials in this game and they all have very different effects, although they all will heal you. Some heal you more than others and some can be used more than others before they have to be refilled again. Now the basic vials you start off with only heal you. Like I said, some will heal you more than others, but the ones that don't heal you that much you can usually carry more. Now my personal recommendation if you're just starting out is to use the Elysian Bandolier. I think I said that right. Granted, it does only heal 20% of your health, but you have 18 uses out of it. This really cuts the time down if you having to refill all the time. Trust me, it really helps when you're doing dungeon crawling. Then once you've saved up a bit more money, you can start moving on to the vials that give you extra bonuses. The only vial that has a special bonus effect in the market is the Death-Defying Vial. It heals 30% of your health, but it automatically activates when you run out of health, which makes you kind of invincible if you think about it, until you run out of charges. And now we finally come to the Trove of Wonder Vials. These are undoubtedly the best vials you can get in the game, unsurprisingly because they're so bloody expensive to get a hold of. Well, they're expensive if you plan on buying them with the Fragments of Wonder, but I'll go over that now in a moment. Now I'm not going to go over all the vials because there's just way too many of them, but I will go over the ones that I commonly use. Before they patched it, I often used the Valorous Vial. With this vial activated, you had a 5% chance of recovering one charge of your vials every time you landed a critical hit. This vial worked very well for everyone who had a Surestrike emblem, which would make all of your attacks do critical damage for a certain period of time. But of course, making yourself considerably OP isn't allowed in the game, so they stopped that emblem from working, and now there's a bit of a time delay, so it takes a few seconds to reactivate the critical hit damage. What a bummer. Now to replace my Valorous Vial, because it no longer works as intended, I am using the Condensing Vial. Now I know this isn't on everyone's favourite list, but there we go, this is just my personal opinion and what I like to use. This vial recharges itself every 45 seconds, and you do have 7 charges out of it straight off the bat. One more thing I'm going to point out as well, certain mastery levels also allow you to carry more charges. That's why some of you have probably noticed I'm carrying a lot more charges than what I normally should be. Now moving on to the actual emblems themselves, because this guide has probably sounded a bit strange without knowing what the fuck these are. Now emblems work alongside with the vials. You can have 2 emblems to 1 vial. These emblems give you special bonuses every time you use a vial. These could be anything from increased movement speed, jump, attack damage, flying in fucking space. Okay, maybe not that last one. Now like the vials, there is an absolute ton of these things, and I'm not going to go through all of them because I can't be bothered to edit down a 30-minute video. Again, that's just very stupid. But I am going to go over the ones that are more commonly used by pretty much everyone and are more universally accepted into this world. That just sounds really fucking stupid, man. The Arcane Emblem and the Martial Emblem. As you've probably just worked out by their names, the Arcane Emblem doubles your magic damage, whereas the Martial Emblem doubles your physical damage. These effects last for 8 seconds, but my god, they do make you into one formidable force to reckon with. The Chromatic Emblem. This reduces your ability's cooldown times every time you use a vial. This works pretty well for the knight, and it also works pretty damn well for the boomerager as well. Anything that reduces your cooldown times for your ultimate skills with those classes, this thing works fantastic. The Vampiric Emblem. This is a fantastic skill to use if you're using someone like the Dracolite or the Tomb Raiser, anything that has like a channeling kind of attack with a high attack speed. As you probably worked out by the name, every time you attack it increases your health by 10%. And the last one, but definitely the most popular emblem to use, is the Surestrike emblem. When this emblem is activated for 5 seconds, all of your attacks become critical damage. So now that I've gone over pretty much everything that you really do need to know about these vials and emblems, granted there's a lot more I could have gone over, but I'd have just been blabbering on, like I haven't already been fucking doing that. You're all probably wondering, how do we get some of these vials and emblems? The bog standard vials and emblems can be bought inside the market by pressing N. I'd say they're nearly fairly priced and they can be bought with qubits, so you don't have to spend any real money to get these things. But for the more advanced flasks and vials, these can be bought from the Trove of Wonder ships. These are the golden ships that you see at the sea, and they cost a lot of money. Well, the actual flasks and vials, they can be bought with Fragments of Wonder. These Fragments of Wonders, though, can only be found inside the Trove of Wonder chests, and each of these chests cost 10,000 flux each. But you can completely ignore everything I just said and go inside the player market and just buy the flasks and vials there. They often go for fairly cheap, usually around about 40,000 flux. But with price fluctuations, they often go up or they go down, so don't quote me on that. But anyway, as for what combinations of flasks and vials you should use for your classes, that is completely up to you. This thing is a very personal thing that you just develop over time. That sounds really weird. Just play about with combinations and see what you feel most comfortable with. For me, personally, I use the Surstrike Emblem and either the Martial or Arcane Emblem, depending on which class I use. I use that build for pretty much everything I do. And then I use the Condensing Vial because it just has a time limit to recharge itself, which means it's just easier for me. And that's it for the Vials and Emblem guide. I could have gone really in depth for this, but it would have been like a 30-minute long video, and I really don't think people would be bothered to watch something that long all the way through, let's be honest. But there we go, I hope I've answered a few questions, I hope you've enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe and all that good stuff, and I hope to see you all again soon.